In this mini lesson, we're going to work on comparing and ordering real numbers. So we need to make sure we know our symbols, first of all, that this symbol, pointing to the left is our less than symbol. Our inequality symbol pointing to the right is our greater than, and then we have our equal to. So we want to make sure we can kind of compare, contrast, and determine which number is smaller, which number is larger, in order to actually do some comparisons and potentially write a series of numbers in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. So in order to actually compare numbers, we need to make sure that we're looking at numbers in the same manner. And the easiest way to do this is to put all of our numbers in decimal form. So you're going to be presented with fractions. You're going to be presented with percents. You're going to be presented with decimals. The easiest way to go about doing this is to take each of our numbers and make sure that we are representing them in decimal form. So if I want to take a fraction and turn it into a decimal, all I'm going to do is take that 4/5, that fraction bar means divide. So we're going to do 4 divided by 5, which is 0.8. So if we were comparing 4/5 and 0.85, because 0.85 has 2 decimal places, we're going to take that 0.8 and show 2 decimal places, make it 0.80. When we compare 80 versus 85, 80 is less than 85. So that means we would need to show this, that our 0.80 is less than 0.85. And then our final answer, we need to make sure that we write it in a way such that we are expressing our numbers in the way that they were originally written. So that 0.80 was the original form of 4/5. So our final answer needs to be written as 4/5 is less than 0.85. Next, we've got our decimals and percents. So if we're comparing 0.60 and 62%, we're going to take the 62% and turn it into a decimal, 0.62. We take our decimal place and move it 2 units to the left in order to turn it into a decimal form. Now we're comparing 0.60 and 0.62. So because we're comparing, again, an equal number of places, 60 is less than 62. So we're going to start off by showing that 0.60 is less than 0.62, and then make sure that because we were representing 62% as that 0.62, we rewrite it as a percentage for the final answer. And then if we're comparing fractions to percents, we're going to take each of these forms and we're going to write them in decimal form. So if we're comparing 10% and 2/25, we're going to take the 10% and turn it into a decimal, 0.10. We're going to take the 2/25, turn that into a decimal by dividing, and that becomes 0.08. So when I compare 0.10 to 0.08, 10 is greater than 8. Therefore, we would start off by writing that 0.10 is greater than 0.8, and then make sure we use our substitution. That 0.10 was actually 10% in the original form, and the 0.08 was actually the 2/25 in the original form. So we want to make sure we take all of our numbers, whether they're fractions, decimals, even radicals involved, and make sure we put them all in those decimal forms to then be able to compare. So I'm going to do a couple of these examples, and then you are going to follow up and do a few of them yourself. So obviously with our integers, 9 is less than 15. If I look at number 5, notice the first number is 0.2, the second number is 0.202. We've got 3 decimal places on the left. So let's rewrite we've got 3 decimal places on the right. So let's rewrite the left so it has 3 decimal places. That would be 0.200 versus 0.202. 202. Well, 202 is bigger than 200, therefore the 0.2 is less than 0.202. In terms of our negatives, the larger the negative number, the smaller it is. So that would mean -5 is actually bigger than -10 because -5 is closer to 0 than -10 is. If I'm then comparing in number 6, 0.45 to 9/20, I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to type in 9 divided by 20, hit enter, and it gives me 0.45. So I'm going to go back to my problem here and rewrite this 9 over 20 as 0.45. Well, 0.45 versus 0.45, they are equivalent. And then I'll go to number 7 yet. 50% is 0.5. Okay, if we take that decimal place, move it 2 to the left. So that'd be 0.5, but notice we're comparing to 0.49, which has 2 decimal places. So let's make that 0.50. Well, the 0.50 will be greater than 0.49, so we've got a greater sign that goes in between. And these problems are nice because we are automatically given the original forms for each of them, so we don't have to reconvert back. Okay, so you're going to be completing numbers 3, 4, and 8 on your own. Next, if I'm going to order the numbers from least to greatest, I'm going to start off by taking each of these numbers and making sure I put them all in decimal form. So I'm going to go to the right-hand side and I'm going to turn 3/4 into a decimal. Well, 3 divided by 4 is going to be 0.75. So I'm going to write 0.75. Next, I've got my 70%. When we move that decimal place 2 to the left, that's going to be 0.7. But so far, I've got 2 decimal places from the previous number, so I'm going to add a 0, so I've got 2 decimal places there as well. Next, we've got 8/12. Well, let's see what 8/12 turns out to be. Go to my calculator. 8 divided by 12 is going to be 0.6 repeating. Okay, so my recommendation here would be just to write 0.66666. Okay. It is repeating, but we want to make sure that if we have anything that's super close, we can then compare farther out if needed. And then we've got our 0.72, which is already in decimal form, 0.72. Okay, so we're going to compare our 2 decimal places here. Now, if I'm going to be ordering the numbers from least to greatest, that means I'm ordering the numbers from small to big. So in this case, I'm just going to number them. So my smallest number here is going to be the 0.66. Okay, so this is going to be my first number. I need to make sure I write it as 8/12. My next number would be the 0.70, so that would be the second number. Next would be 0.72, would be my third. And then my fourth is 0.75. Okay, so again, make sure you write your answer then in the appropriate form using your original values here. So our first is going to be 8/12. Our second is going to be 70%. Our third is going to be the 0.72. And our fourth will be 3/4. And you'll be doing the same exact thing for numbers 10 and 11. "12 through 16 address the same exact ideas as our numbers 1 through 11, so you will also be completing those independently.